Hello there, Mr. Box.
Hey.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Have you met No Justice MTG before?
Yeah, of course I have. Many
Oh,
times.
oh,
We're on
okay.
the same panel together. The Irish Unity panel.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, well there you go. Well, no introductions necessary then. So, yeah, you were saying the Queen was awesome.
I've come to defend my honor is what I've come to do, Kevin.
Okay, so I mean, well, look, all I'm saying is you are a monarchist piece of filth.
True. Okay, listen.
Oh.
Okay, my monarch has just died. Okay, not in a good mood. We're gonna get through it together though. So, I fucking hate the monarchy, like obviously, etc.
Virtue signal,
Um,
virtue signal.
I've got two problems. All right.
Go on then.
First of all, that tweet about how sarcastically saying that every British atrocity for the last 400 years was caused by one person, right?
Yeah.
So that's not a straw man. It's hyperbolic, but it's not a straw man. Like
Well,
I've got at least like three threads here with over like 100,000 likes of people just talking about like colonial shit that like never happened or stuff that the Queen never did, and it's just like I mean I can go through some of them if you want, but it's just like I feel like if you've got this really good opportunity to say, well, the Queen's dead, she's the last imperial monarch, we get to talk about British atrocities. That's all great. I love doing that, but then it's just like it feels more like people are just kind of grabbing whatever half factoid they can to justify the fact that they're celebrating someone's death, and it just yeah, it's just weird. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of issues. Firstly, do you have an issue with the celebration of the death?
Yeah.
Well, please do elaborate.
So this is no sympathy. I don't think it means I like the Queen any more than someone who is celebrating.
Hmm.
I just think if you celebrate death, first of all, it's like leftist rehabilitative justice, etc. Where's all that gone? The second one is what do you achieve by it? Like, what are we celebrating? The monarchy still exists. The damages of imperialism and all the whitewashing still exists. All the stolen wealth is still there. All the inequalities and all the like ridiculous allocations of wealth will continue, probably get worse now that she's dead. And the third thing is, it just makes the left look fucking horrible. Like, this is the kind of behavior that left wing candidates have had to apologize for. Bernie had to apologize for this kind of behavior from, like, his fan base. Corbyn probably did get fairly damaged by a lot of the toxicity from his side during his, like, run. And if you learn by example, like, these people tried to lead by example. When Paxman was, like, grilling Corbyn about his abolish the monarchy stance, Corbyn just kind of sat back and like was just really jovial, like, yeah, I spoke to the Queen. It's not really a top priority to abolish the monarchy. We've got poverty and fuel crisis and shit like that. So,
Okay. Well, what I will say is, firstly, the idea of rehabilitative justice for someone who's dead seems an odd concept. So I'm not sure how that's relevant.
I can
Really.
tell you why.
Go on then.
What's like one really good argument I think about the death penalty is that against the death penalty is the idea that it doesn't help anyone. Death penalty doesn't do any good, and there's all this research about how it doesn't provide closure for any of the even and that's talking about direct victims.
Right, but
So
there's a difference
if you can hold
between
that stance alongside,
there's a difference between someone being killed by the state and a 96-year-old dying of natural causes. Surely.
yeah, but it's the celebration point, right? I thought if you're going to say like a good argument against the death penalty is that it doesn't provide closure, then why are we acting as if
Well, no,
there's any closure with the Queen dying? Like,
you think that's a good argument against the death. And by the way, I'm also against the death penalty. But you're the one that's saying that's a good argument against the death penalty. I'm not entirely sure that celebrating the Queen has anything to do with closure. I think it's largely catharsis for a group of people, i.e., monarchists, anti-monarchists in Britain, who are, by societal standards, a rather put upon group, because you have to put up with a lot of nonsense, and the fact that you have to against your will pay for this is fucking bullshit, right? You have to pay essentially a religious tax. So when on occasion you like when Prince Philip dies, or when the Queen dies, or something generally unfortunate happens to these group of very, very privileged bastards who will never hear your opinion said, you can just let off a bit of steam. It's got nothing to do with closure.
okay, I mean, like, I'm just saying then that's if that's what like your gut reaction is, and it is like genuinely making you feel like really good about like
Well, not
that's
even
like you've like the appropriate response, like that's fine. It's
not
just
even
that
it's not
if you're
even
gonna
it's not even good. It's just letting off some steam. It's just It's like you're falling into something of the same trap as people who say, like, well, what do riots achieve? Well, people don't riot to necessarily achieve anything. They're frustrated with a situation and they're letting off steam. It's a societal pressure valve. It's a letting off some steam in a situation that's pretty controlled. Like, no one's going around like attacking monarchs or anything. It's fine. It's some words on Twitter, which I don't see as particularly bad. Now, the optics point is true. It doesn't make the left look particularly great. But again, I sort of don't care that much. I'm not going to chastise anybody for it. I'm certainly doing it myself, if you look at the title of the fucking stream. I'm not here to necessarily make anything look good as such. Like, I'm not actually a politician. I have no interest in running, so I don't care if people ask me questions like, well, you celebrated the death of the Queen. Well, okay, well, she lay on a fucking throne of skulls from across the world. I don't really give a fuck. Like, I don't, like, the left is going to be made to look bad by the media regardless.
Clarify as well, LonerBox. Is your point specifically about people celebrating death in particular, or like you talk about things like jokes and stuff like that as well? Just
no, I've got a very strict distinction. So memes and all that stuff, I think, is fine. Again, I'm not saying she deserves any sympathy. Celebration is a little bit different though, because it's like, again, if people are, if like some random punter wants to like thinks it's letting off steam, I don't know how you can't let off steam just by memeing, but it's the celebration and the whole, like, I hope like her last moments were like massive suffering, and then I'm going to back this up with like 7 different things that the British Empire never actually did. And it's then I'm just thinking, I don't know.
Okay, well,
and if we're all public figures, you know, like to some degree or another, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, the misinformation obviously is inexcusable. Because there's plenty of stuff the British Empire did do that the Queen at best looked the other way about, which is, so I think that's fine to criticise that person for doing that, and of course the various other awful things like defending her fucking pedophile son, etc. Like this was, she was not a nice person, not just regardless of the constitutional aspect of any of this. She was an awful human.
Yeah, I mean, of course. And if you want to go with that, like, first of all, I'm not too sure if I buy the thing about her having to make a stand against whatever the imperialism stuff was, first of all, because it's arguable whether or not she knew at the time, because even lots of politicians didn't know. Say, like, the Kenyan camps, that didn't even reach Parliament until, like, a year before they closed, you know?
Okay, but,
so,
like, okay,
as for
in individual instances, yes, that's true. But, like, the troubles in Ireland, everyone knew full well that what was going on there was a human rights atrocity. And she was seemingly perfectly fine with that. Now, again, as a constitutional monarch, she shouldn't necessarily even say anything about that, because you're supposed to be apolitical. But if you want to remain apolitical in the face of evil, you're acquiescing to evil, which makes you not really a great deal better.
Yeah, so the only way you get to make that argument is if you say, like, she should have abdicated and then just campaigned as a commoner, right? Because there's no world in which she's still the Queen and she takes a stand that's against the government. Yeah. Because if she does that, it's like that. Then you're what, like, pro-monarchy? Like, just executive action is fine as long as it's in our favor. Nah, I don't buy that at all.
Also, even if she does abdicate, we'll just, whoever's next in line for the throne maintains the throne, right? She's got to take actual action to dissolve the monarchy, to get that proper end, absolution again in the sense for the actual monarchy itself, right?
Yeah, based. Yeah. Also, again, the monarchy would remain even if she had, abdicated and all the rest of it. And then the same criticism could then be made of whoever did stick around. Like, I have principled and I think worthwhile arguments against the monarchy as an institution, but I'm also, I think, prepared to make personal judgments about the individuals involved, and, if necessary, take humorous steps to mock their downfall. I'm fine with that. Like, when bad things happen to bad people, I'm gonna laugh at that. Fuck them.
Yeah. So again, we're just making 2 different points again. Like, I'm completely on board with we shouldn't be any nicer to her now that she's dead. Like, that would be very hypocritical. There are plenty of personal and decisions that she made with her own agency completely that were reprehensible. It was actually her choice to try and make sure that all the stolen artifacts from the Empire were kept kind of protected from museums and for even people knowing what's there. Same thing with keeping her wealth hidden. She had an active role in that. I don't know if it's proven that she had an active role in getting money over to Prince Andrew's legal funds, but if she did, I mean, pretty bad. So yeah, there's all those things you can, and I still think it's fine to say. I'm only think it's reasonable to draw a line at the celebrations because it depends on what you want to achieve. Like I feel like if you're in politics and you're speaking publicly, I feel like persuading people who don't already agree with you is a big part of that. And I would ask, like, sometimes you have to make principled stances and take unpopular positions. The thing about this is celebrating the Queen's death is not a fuck you a principled stance. It's a very safe stance if you're an online leftist. Like the safe thing to do is to celebrate the Queen's death. Like that's like the,
but it's also
status quo in our community, right? Like,
well, okay, but it's also perfectly safe to say nothing. Like that wouldn't. No one's going to be that bothered if you just do like essentially what you're, I suppose, suggesting you do is you have like a calm distance from it. Like you're not necessarily celebrating it, but you're not like mourning or anything. That's also perfectly safe.
There's just another piece of clarification as well, LonerBox. You specifically talking in this situation regarding Twitter leftists specifically, or leftists in general, I guess, rather, who are making...
all I was commenting on, yeah.
Yeah, because obviously there's this difference, right, between leftoids doing it because they feel like it's just that they have some kind of some kind of morality backing it up because it's bad if it's good if bad things happen to bad people, whereas obviously that's different for a situation of the celebration from the death coming from, I don't know, the Irish or the black community in America, etc.
Yeah, if you've got like generational trauma and you saw the Queen doing speeches about how that suffering wasn't actually real or whatever the fuck, then yeah, I'm not going to like go and tone police you or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
if anything, it feels like I can show you probably more evidence that I've been tone policed in the last 2 days because people are now saying I'm pro monarchy and whatever, like
possibly you have.
Okay.
Possibly you have been tone policed, but what I would suggest is that you're also doing tone policing. I think you're doing a kind of civility politics thing, right?
I don't even know if that's necessarily like. I mean, civility politics. Like, I don't really think people should be civil around things that are like, talking about like rhetoric about what's going on right now, right? Like, if you're talking about atrocities and shit like that. So no, I'm not going to tone police someone who's talking about atrocities in somewhere like fucking Palestine or even like the Iraq War or anything like that. I'm just talking about celebrating the death of someone as a public figure.
Well, exactly.
Those are two very specific things.
Well, no, but you're still doing civility politics. You're saying it's uncivil and optically bad to do X thing. So you are doing civility politics. Now, that's not necessarily even wrong. I'm not even necessarily criticising that. I think civility politics actually has its place. I'm not your average leftist. I'm one of the good ones, whatever, right? Civility politics does have its place. I just think on this instance, when you've got such an unbelievable saturation of pro-monarchy dick-waving in your fucking face for days, people letting off a little bit of steam, and that's all I'm doing. I don't really, like, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm just having a bit of fun with it, because, like, I'm beset on all fucking sides by pictures of this prick. Like, I'm just going to laugh about it. I'm just going to have a meme, you know?
Yeah, and again, I think having a meme is a bit different, because...
Well, no, you're celebrating it as a meme, because, like, I wouldn't go up to... I don't know, Prince William and go, your nan's dead, you fuck. Like, I wouldn't do that. That would be rude.
Why not?
That would be cruel.
What would you say to like someone about my size or any of our sizes who was doing that? Like,
I'd say that's a bit wrong because you're making it weird, and like that's not funny at that point. You're just bullying another human being. Whereas at this point, it's just we're making fun of like a very powerful person, and their families will never see. Like, Prince William is not watching my fucking stream. So I don't really care that much.
As far as you know, he may be a big fan.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe 255 is like secretly Prince William, one of my regulars.
Okay, yeah. So what you just did, someone else who's even more crazy could argue was tone policing as well, right? It's just
exactly. Well, I'm saying I think civility politics has its place. I'm not suggesting it's always bad, and I think some leftists overdo it when they say that civility politics is like almost as if they have like a childish overreaction to any criticism, and they're like, well, I'm going to double down then. If you say I'm being slightly racist, well, I might as well say the fucking N-word then. Like, just shut up.
Jesus.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I think I am kind of sold on the optics argument at the very least, actually. Like, if we're serious about, engendering some kind of political change, as a collective group within the United Kingdom, we're spending so much time essentially just for the lulz, really. Like all of the kind of the mockery that we're doing, that's, you're celebrating something that we understand, the negativity of that thing existing, right? regardless of whether or not we do or don't engage in, our celebrations, right? That's not going to change the existence of that system at all. But what it will do is hamper our own ability to be able to agitate for effective change by turning people away who might have certain different ideas about something like the royal family. At least right now, right? Like obviously, even if people are sold on the idea of democracy, like every classical liberal in the world right now, or not everyone, but loads of them, they're all coming out being super pro-monarchy, despite the fact when classical liberals are literally supposed to be the people who were manning the guillotines in the French Revolution, right? And we're not going to be able to move them over if they're going to be put off us because they think we're all dickheads because we're celebrating the death of some old lady, right? Like, I think I buy the argument.
Okay.
I'm not even sure I guess if we're talking, because it feels like we're kind of agreeing and just maybe not having different definitions of celebrating. Because I mean, if you look at my Twitter, like someone who's right wing can probably call some of that celebration, right? Like the whole like Liz Truss fucking memes and like it wasn't me because she died like 40 miles away from my house. Like, okay. And also, there's lots of abolish the monarchy there as well, which I haven't been saying much of before she died. So it's kind of taking the opportunity of that.
You only live 40 miles from Balmoral?
Yeah.
Okay, well, all I'm saying is we have no evidence to suggest that you didn't do it.
True.
Well done, operative LonerBox.
And there are no people in Scotland, so there are not many of us.
Exactly.
It's like an identity parade of people within 40 miles of Balmoral,
True.
Like 10 of us.
Anyway, the reason I called your tweet a straw man, just to get back to it for a second, is that, I mean, I understand that you were being hyperbolic, but I think what you were doing was, to some extent, echoing some right-wing talking points that other people will make much more seriously, of course, about how you shouldn't put all of the crimes onto one person, which I get that some people are doing, but for the most part, it's if she's going to be symbolic, which is kind of the argument that royalists make, then you do have to say, well, she's a symbol of those things, and therefore, whilst she's not personally to blame for, the fucking Irish potato famine or whatever, you take on the crimes of that as the symbol of that as well, in the same way that the flag represents that certain thing, and the fact that the armed forces that do those things do directly pay oath to her directly, not to the nation or a constitution, but to her. And I think it's actually worth suggesting that you do put some of that blame on her. She could step down. No one has to do this. No one's got a gun to her head saying you have to be this thing, and yet she was for 70 years during some of the most fucking brutal shit imaginable.
Does that mean she also deserves praise from the same people for when she recognized post-apartheid South Africa and met frequently with Mandela?
Well, yes, and she does. Like, literally, she's being, like, hero worshipped like Kim Jong-il or some shit. Like, it feels like we live in fucking North Korea right now. Like, you can't realistically say she hasn't gotten praise for the good things that she's done. I think that's been overdone pretty significantly.
I don't even know if she deserves praise for it either, because her entire job since the age of, like, I don't know, 1 day old was to do what she was told, right? That's her whole thing, right? She, like, every speech was written by someone else apart from the Christmas speeches. Those were the one exceptions. The decision-making she did get involved with was very minute, and it was mostly to do with hiding her own wealth, which is, I think, probably the most worthy thing of criticism, because she actually stepped out of her way to do it. That's actually the one incidence of her exercising her agency, like, properly.
Well, not just hiding her wealth, but, like, literally having at various times during the course of the decades carving out exemptions for herself, whether it be racially profiling for employment, which those literally are still in control now. She's he now, Charles, is the one employer in the country who I believe can legally racially discriminate. Whether it be the smoking ban, if you remember, for the first 2 years of that, the royal palaces were exempt until there was a public backlash against it. They have consistently, over the course of time, not acted as a good constitutional monarch should. Now, admittedly, mostly in their own favour, rather than directly saying, oh, we should invade X country, or whatever. But the fact that she also has private talks with the Prime Minister every week, she has a fair amount of sway over public policy as well. Not necessarily directly dictating it, but I think if you have the ear of the Prime Minister constantly, and the Prime Minister literally bows to you when he enters the room, or she enters the room, I think that says something. I think that you can't divorce then that person from the actions of that government and the armed forces and etc. etc.
Yeah, and that's all good reason to abolish the monarchy. Yeah,
True.
It feels like Charles is maybe going to do a good job of it because day one, and he's already making errors in front of the camera, which is
Oh yeah, do you see
quite
him, like,
funny because
waving them away and stuff? What the fuck? It is like some medieval shit. Like the peasants need to clear this fucking table. Jesus.
Yeah, but
I think that's why people. I think that's why we piss people off so much by you doing the celebratory stuff as well. It's because when you look at the success, like the history of monarchy. I think we saw about on stream the other day, Kev. Like when you look at the history of monarchs that we've had, like Liz is probably one of the better ones, right? When you compare, especially when you're comparing it to the Charles we have now. Charles is way more of a bellend than she ever was.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. She's not Henry VIII or anything. Like I can accept. I think it would be churlish to not do so. To accept that she's one of the better constitutional monarchs one could have, but I mean, not that I need to convince anyone in this conversation, but the very fact that we have to rely on whoever comes out of the right set of testicles and ovaries to not be a cunt in order for the system to work is probably a reason to get rid of that system.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can. We're talking about. Just to be clear, what I was talking about when it comes to the hyperbole, because I think it is pretty justified, is that like the threads I'm talking about have like maybe 1/3 of a million likes between them, and one of them is like a guy saying that she ordered troops to suppress a rebellion in Yemen in the 60s. It's like,
Right.
if you're here to bring the like the ethnic like oppressed take to the room with fucking like about empire atrocity, and you're sitting here saying the Queen ordered troops. So like, how little do you need to know about the monarchy to think that?
No, she did.
And then,
she personally led them. She went
maybe
over
it's because
to
they were
Yemen.
called Her Majesty's fuck brown people guard. I don't know, but like, and that maybe.
Well, again, to be fair, they are technically her troops. They do take an oath to her directly.
Yeah, but
and to her heirs and successors. So
yeah, but we both know full well that like when the riots start, the governor doesn't sit there waiting for the Queen's approval, right?
No, that's also true. But she could have. I think the reason I bring that up, I think it's interesting. If we did try to dissolve the monarchy, I think there would be renegade parts of the army, who, especially those from say loyalist communities, for instance, in Northern Ireland, who might essentially refuse to go along with what the government were doing. And in that case, like how much of it I don't know, but they take an oath to her, and I think that's deeply fucking worrying.
You think we'd have a coup attempt from the military if
I don't know. I don't know if we'd have a significant enough percentage of the army to make that a possibility. But I think we'd definitely have rogue elements that would take up orange terror type tactics at the very least.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you're a progressive, abolish the monarchy is already like stage 20, right? Of all the things that need to be done to the United Kingdom. And
exactly.
when you're at that stage, that's probably a stage where abolishing the monarchy is so popular that whoever does it is not going to be afraid of losing the next election. It's going to have that kind of level of mandate.
That's why it's really difficult to reform something like the House of Lords as well, because as much as it's such an obvious slam dunk to say you shouldn't have these unelected pricks making these decisions, it's so low down on the overall priority list that why would governments waste political capital doing it? Basically.
Yeah. I mean, even Tories will say that. Like George Osborne said that Lords should go just in term 4 or some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you've got nothing else left to do that you go, the Lords probably do that, I reckon.
Yeah. Because we can go. Fuck. Sorry. I was talking to Lance yesterday, and he'd read a thread about how. The Queen, like one of the Queen's atrocities was to talk about how the UK's principle of self-determination was upheld in the Falklands, because there's this thread here that says they're actually called the Malvinas Islands and they're wrongly named Falklands by the UK. So I guess there was just like a tanky thread who wants the Falklands to be should have been taken over by the fucking murdering fascist junta of Argentina in the 80s. Yeah, that was really true. That was really fucking cringe.
To be fair, I think. I mean, it's difficult because of the saber rattling on both sides, and this was not at all what we meant to talk about. But the Falklands, I mean, realistically, I think there's a pretty decent argument for some sort of dual sovereignty type thing, which would calm that situation down. because obviously we need to protect the British citizens who live there. But realistically, I mean, it's right next to Argentina. Why the fuck do we have these islands? And it's clearly like a source of diplomatic issue with us. We could do the same thing with Gibraltar, with Spain. Again, it would calm things down without threatening the rights of any British citizens. But it doesn't. That's a completely different issue. That's stage 1,000,000 of the plan.
Yeah, because if you've ever seen the Falklands, it's not just that they're British. They are insanely British. They're the most chronically British people on Earth.
That's the thing. The further away you get from, let's say, I don't know, the British Isles, the more crazy they become about it. Mainly because of the detachment. I think they it would be easy to let go of the Malvinas or Gibraltar. No one, the British government could just do it. So they're like, fuck that noise, no. When they had the referendum in Gibraltar, and 96% or whatever, Robert Mugabe numbers. But it was a fair election,
It was 3 people who voted no.
3 people.
So it's not.
And presumably they were doing it for the lols, I reckon.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like because people just have this heuristic where they think, oh, British colony all the way in South America, that must be there's an oppressed indigenous minority that still lives there.
There is the penguins. The penguins.
Yeah, there are the penguins. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're mixed race. They're black and white. So.
True.
Fact.
Oh god, there's someone else. There's a 170k tweet here saying that she oversaw the concentration camps in Kenya.
Personally,
I'm oversaw as in in the same sense that she oversaw the Iraq War and Afghanistan. I guess she technically did. Yeah. Fuck. I don't know. I hate these people. What do you think about the tweet of I guess this is a big contentious one, the professor who said she hopes she suffers all the pain of the millions of people she genocided or whatever. Remember that tweet?
Oh yeah, the one. Yeah, it's the weirdly named college which I'd never heard of before. Yeah,
Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon, never heard of it. But anyway, yeah, that was
I think it was worth it just so that we managed to be able to pin all of the rightoids on their free speech.
That's
anti-censorship thing, right?
Well, I think
when they go, hang on a minute.
The Joe Lycett thing did that as well, perfectly. Yeah,
true.
You can't be, oh, you're all snowflakes, and then a comedian makes a joke, and the fucking front page of the Daily Mail is this comedian told a joke on the telly, prick.
This was more kind of a corollary to the kind of the Kathleen Stock stuff, where there's literally this whole thing about people engaging in quote unquote wrong think and then losing their tenure as a professor, right? And then suddenly the rightoids have completely changed tack on it. But obviously, I think again, it's more within her. So on a serious note, I think in her case, it is genuinely more a case of someone who is part of the oppressed monarchs of the British Empire at the end of the day, right? So whether you think that it's in poor form or not, I mean, there's plenty of different opinions about that. You can at least understand where it comes from, and that it makes it far more justifiable than what leftoids are doing, right?
Yeah,
she did say my family, but I don't even know where she's from or which generation she's talking about. But for someone who's also a professor with a blue check mark, I'm
I think I mean, I understand. I'm not going to necessarily criticize anyone for maybe sounding off a little bit, but I think if you are, I don't know, a person in a position of authority like that, I think it's probably best to try and tone it down a little bit. Which I know again is just it's civility, politics, tone policing. I know, but I think if you want to be in that kind of position, you've got to be a bit more sensible, I think.
Yeah, it's not. It's I don't know. It feels weird to use the term tone policing as well, because I feel like tone policing would be more that if the tone you were using had some kind of purpose, I guess. But it's the fact that you gain nothing from it.
Oh no, she got crazy bad. She got publicity, man. Think of the clout.
She did get publicity. She got a lot of likes, and then got banned from Twitter or got deleted tweet.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, look, you the rough with the smooth. If she was on the right, she could turn that to her advantage and say she'd been silenced by the cancel woke mob or whatever, and make millions. But there we go. Okay. Any more? You got anything else, or have you is your pro monarchy arc? Will that carry on now, or
you know what? No, I don't know. I don't have a joke for that. Fuck.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I know you're in a period
Just
of you're in a
just the,
period
you
of
know,
mourning. It's fine.
just
Look.
the tanky tone policing. You know, they're
I'll-
just they're coming for me.
Oh well, yeah. Fuck the tankies.
You're
Yeah.
only anti-monarch if you're literally drooling over her grave and blaming her for fucking, I don't even know, like
True. Unless
like
you are
Play.
Henry
Oh,
VIII
well.
executions. Like, yeah.
unless you are planning to masturbate to the live TV coverage of the funeral, are you really anti-monarchy? Think about it, people.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard like some of the pro monarchy takes are like, oh god, they're kind of worse, right? Like Tucker Carlson saying the only the only atrocity the British Empire did was against white people in South
Yeah,
Africa.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
oh
we
God.
looked at that earlier. Yeah, just the white one though. The brown ones weren't really genocide because they're not really people. So, checkmate. Checkmate.
Someone
libs.
clip that.
Yeah,
you know-
clip it and ship it.
Do you know much about the Kenyan gulags, the camps?
No, not especially. But I was looking at the South African genocide thing because there's the infamous and horrific picture of Lizzie Van Zyl, the essentially corpse-like child that was starved to death. Anyway, yeah, but I don't know much about the Kenyan one, to be honest. No.
Yeah, in that uprising, the RAF dropped 6 million bombs in 2 years over Kenya
Amateur numbers.
and only killed 12,000 people.
Oh, that's rubbish. What were they dropping them into
And
the
most of
fucking
those
rivers?
deaths weren't by the bombs. Yeah.
Absolute rubbish.
Greatest
Dickheads.
army in the world, though. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Air Force, not Army. You've embarrassed
Oh,
yourself
Air
there.
Force, yeah, true.
Embarrassed
Oh,
yourself.
you, as if I have any knowledge of anything to do with the military. These are not military hands.
Well,
And,
neither
I was,
am
I
I.
was going to say 6 million bombs. That's 6 million bombs is rookie numbers when you compare it to the American bombing of Laos. Was that 260 million?
Yeah, like
Rookie numbers.
there's a fantastic image of each bomb that was, or each 1,000 pounds of bombs that was dropped during the Indochina War or whatever. And each mark is like a little black mark on the map, and basically the entirety of the region is coloured black. Like it's
Black
just fucking
country.
flattened. Yeah, well, exactly.
Isn't the Indochina War you refer to Vietnam versus France, or am I going
Well, that's French Indochina, but I mean Indochina as in Vietnam, Laos,
Yeah, that's
Cambodia.
fair.
They were all variously bombed during that period.
true? I mean, yeah, was it? I mean, that's just crazy shit.
JFK was a lad.
I mean, to be fair to JFK, like he genuinely was cautious about going to war. It was LBJ that followed, right? He was the one who actually intensified.
Well, can we
it, right?
can we all agree that Henry Kissinger needs to be next?
Yeah, 100%. It's absolutely unreal.
How is
But-
that fucking prick still going? Look, presumably he's such a treacherous prick. He managed to get the devil to sign his soul away to fucking Kissinger.
He's
Almost
99.
certainly. Oh, he's gonna get to the fucking century and declare the prick. Fuck. That's a cricket reference. Never mind.
It's a cricket reference.
I was also it's a cricket / suicide reference, I suppose. Anyway, never mind. Yeah, okay. Well, I'll let you go, LonerBox, and you can go back to crying into the framed picture of the Queen you have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only playing.
Well,
And
hang
crying
on.
into your
Let me
sovereigns.
stop you both right there, okay?
Go on then.
You're gonna let me go without even holding a minute silence for our protector of the realm?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Anyway.
I fucked your mom.
Fair play. She did well. She's batting above her average there. No offense, Mom, but you are 60 years old. Anyway.
LonerBox confirmed MILF Hunter.
True. Well, technically Gilf Hunter, because
Gilf Hunter.
she's got 2 and now nearly 3 grandkids. So
Are yours?
no, none of them are mine. Good lord, no.